We're live. So here we have Jessa Jones to my right side, to my right, and she runs a company called iPad Rehab, very similar to what we do. She does data recovery, and she does all the jobs that I don't want to do that we refer to her because...
Yeah, like I've been noticing that.
In touch IC.
And you know what? I made my own canned response, which was like, listen, Lewis sent you here because he was too kind to say, yeah, this is a job nobody wants to do. I'm just going to tell it to you straight. This is a job that nobody wants to do. Give up now. And so, you know.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the Apple's new independent repair program? What do you think of it?
I think that it's potentially fantastic. It's a great first step. I'm going to count it as a win for independent repair, for the right to repair, all of the work that we've been doing. I really think that this came about because of the stuff that we've all been putting out for years. So I think it's a win. It's, you know, not perfect, but I think it's a win. It seems to be open. And one of the big things I was worried about is if you sign up for this program, that it would restrict you from being able to actually offer a choice of screens, which is the whole goal. The consumer to be able to say, do I want OEM screen? What does it look like? Let me touch and feel it in my hand versus aftermarket quality A and aftermarket quality trash. You can choose. What do you want to put in your phone? How long you want this thing to last? So I think that goal will be achieved, that people will actually be able to have that choice. So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize when it comes to this entire topic is that people seem to think that there's two different types of screens. They think that there's, aftermarket trash and that there's original good. They don't seem to understand that there's a middle ground where you can buy a screen where it was refurbished, where the refurbishing, like back in the 2012, 13, it was shit. But like around 2016, 17, 18, it got a lot better to where it's really difficult, if even possible, to tell the original from the refurb in many cases if you're a consumer. And you have the crappy screen that's $12, the good screen at $35, and then the Apple screen at $117. And one of the things that really, I honestly, it's not like I was really surprised, but when I saw that Apple's selling the iPhone 6s screen for $117, and that phone on eBay is anywhere from $120 to $140. Maybe if you want the highest gig version, you're paying like $190 to $200. Like, what kind of person is going to pay $117, not even for the service, but for the part by itself to fix a $120 phone?
I think there's going to be people out there, and I think that they're the kind of people that you and I don't know.
A very small number, as Apple would say.
We would sit next to. We don't even know these people. Those are the kind of people that take their Bafang to the Bafang dealer and
those are the type of people that have a Bosch and not a Bafang.
Right. Yeah. They're not even on the same street. We just have no idea how many people would never even consider walking in my door or your door. They're going straight to the Apple store. We have no idea. Is it 1 in 10? We have no idea. So I think that it's going to capture a lot of those people and get them more accessible options that are near them. So I think all of that is great. My concern today was these dates thing. So the thing that kind of woke me up and made me do this video about the FTC stuff that I wanted to talk about is realizing this date stuff. So I started thinking, what is the motivation behind this program? Why now? It's pretty obvious why they're playing this card today, 2 weeks, 11 days before it's time for everybody to decide whether or not they want to buy another iPhone. They're trying to look good. But there's been sort of inklings of this sort of, there's going to be a parts program for a long time. And I looked up, I got sent a link from Kyle Wiens from iFixit yesterday, where he said, Motherboard Vice published a thing that said they got wind of the very first draft of this independent program was back in April of 2018. So April 2018 is when Apple decided to start making this program. April 2018, that was a really long time ago. So what made them actually sit down and do that? And at the same time, April 2018 was when the FTC came out with that whole, you can't have the warranty stickers anymore. You'll void your warranty. None of that applies anymore. So the FTC came out in the same month, April of 2018, saying, hey, remember the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act? Yeah, that's been around since 1975. Well, guess what, Apple? We're holding you to it. So they just sent this letter out to a bunch of companies that said, hey, you can't just tell people that they're going to void their warranty by opening their phone. You just can't tell people that they can't use aftermarket parts or it'll void their warranty. So they sort of lost that bargaining chip in April of 2018, where Apple can no longer say, all aftermarket parts void your warranty. So once that happened, I think they took that really seriously in 2018. And so, this independent repair provider program may be the bee's knees. I will not qualify because I was dumb enough to name my business iPad Rehab. Taking suggestions for new names.
Is that abuse, though, of a trademark? I mean, like, for example, I am a Rossmann Repair Group imp, but I'm doing business as Mac laptop repair specialist to give people an idea that I do repair these. I'm obviously unauthorized, but like something like that is actually enough?
Yeah, I would definitely make the argument that iPad Rehab, Apple does not do iPad repair, and this independent repair provider program provides no iPad parts, so it's definitely not a thing. So it can't really, and all of our brandings, I mean, it says on every, our sign on the front door says unauthorized. So it's, I think we're really clear. But if I'm the peon at Apple in charge of the IRP applicant program, when I see iPad and I look on the other side and it says, do not accept anything that's using a trademark word, iPad, trademark word, reject. That's what I would expect to happen, but who knows? And I've seen a couple people today are getting their letters back from Apple that says, thank you for applying. Would you like to fill out this encyclopedia of all your financial information? Click here. Don't forget to sign the NDA. So those are starting to come out. Let me check my email real quick. Last time I checked, I didn't have one.
Yeah, the NDA was really useful. That's it did a lot of work and effort in keeping us from getting access to all those prices about 12 hours after they released the program.
Yeah, exactly. So according to my email, I have not received the would you like to fill out the application thing. I sent my I'm ready to go at 9:24 a.m. yesterday, and here at 5:30 the next day, crickets from Apple. When I know that some other people in the same time zone have received a reply back, the welcome packet to apply.
Okay, so when it comes to serialization, you're talking about the issue whereby the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act says you can't void a warranty just because you've changed a part to another one. So this is where they would be able to potentially make it so that if you used a... Stop doing your job! Anyway, sorry, he's using tape.
Oh my gosh, you made Betsy Macy get quiet. Yay!
So the whole concept here is that they would be able to make it so that many of the features of the phone only work if you use it with the exact same part that it came with, or that each part has to be programmed in and of itself. So that's the big fear, right? So that's sort of the elephant in the room. And there's some history there, and it's really interesting because I'm not really sure how I feel about it. So it started with the iPhone 5S. So iPhone 5S is the first phone to have the fingerprint sensor. Should the fingerprint sensor be serialized, meaning that the device checks for that unique sensor before it will boot up? What do you think? I don't know. It prevents tampering with the fingerprint sensor, which is a really great way to prevent any possibility of there ever being any kind of hacking of the fingerprint sensor by just saying, it's not the fingerprint sensor I put there, then I don't have a fingerprint sensor anymore. I don't know. I mean, I think you could probably also do that at the level of the software, which if you just don't plug it in, it's just grayed out. So, but as it is, you can't replace the fingerprint sensor. Do you have a problem with that? The 5S fingerprint sensor not being replaceable? I've only had a problem with it on the 1 or 2 events where I ripped the cable, which I am not above having done. And that was it wasn't worth it to me to try and solder the cable back together. I just said mea culpa here. Let's go to the Apple store together. I'll get you a new phone.
But does it bother you? Does it bother you that that's the restriction that's in place? That
Not
you
really. I understand why people are bothered by it, but I also understand why that restriction exists, because at least there we're talking. I understand if they don't want to give out that information. The thing is, I don't want to make it seem like I'm asking for everything, or I'm asking for things that are very unreasonable. And if we're talking about things that will give you access to the inside of the phone, access to bank account, this, that, or the other, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to make it seem like I'm being unreasonable. I really just let me buy a screen, let me buy a battery, and let me be able to program an SMC, which has nothing to do with security, just reading the battery. So that
and
I don't have to
think that
put
makes
96
those
balls
things it makes it really hard to legislate this kind of stuff. I don't have a problem with a fingerprint sensor being paired to the device either. But then fast forward, here comes the iPhone 7. Now the fingerprint sensor is within a home button that's no longer an analog clicky home button. It's a digital home button. So now if you break the home button, you've lost both fingerprint sensor and home button function. Now that's a drag when you have to, let's say you're recovering data on a phone that needs a software update and that home button is now broken. Now you can't press home to upgrade. So now you've lost your data because this paired serialization of the fingerprint sensor.
Are you saying that you have to use the fingerprint sensor in order to allow an update?
Yes.
Because I don't use an iPhone, so I'm clueless here.
Yes. So there was a period of time where you could have this workaround. So let's say that I've got a phone that's water damaged, and let's say that I fix a bunch of stuff and now it's boot looping because it has software corruption. But I can do an update and it will clear that software corruption. It will pass so that I can get back into the iOS and get the data. But in order for the phone to actually load that iOS update, I have to hit press home to update. If I can't press that home button, I can never exit that state. Now, there used to be that you could plug in a little dongle and press home to press the fake home button, and then it would continue on, you'd be fine. But then Apple created the USB restriction, where now the device ignores anything that's plugged into the USB until you enter the passcode. So without the passcode, you're stuck at that press. If you don't have a home button, now, today, as it is right now, there is no way out of that loop. And that's a consequence of the fingerprint sensor being part of the home button being paired to the device. So it's like it's gone one step further. And then
that's lame.
And then they push it one more step. Now with, I don't know what it was, iOS 11 something, 11 or 12, the screen refurbishers that would take a cracked OEM screen. And these are the guys that are making the good screens. So they take the cracked OEM screen and put on the new glass. Now you put it into somebody else's phone, and guess what? It doesn't have the ambient light sensor's not working. What?
You know, I actually read an interesting article on this, and it was how you could use the ambient light sensor to map somebody's home, because if you know where they are throughout their home, and if you do this on a regular basis, like I was outside really sunny, now they go home, you could tell this is when they're in the bathroom, this is the size of their place, this is probably where they are at this time. I don't have the website in my head, but there was a very long description of how the ambient light sensor, if people got into it, and there are apps that are actually using the ambient light sensor, even when you're not using the fucking app, and there's no reason for it to use the ambient light sensors, where it can actually get information on your environment, on your surroundings, and where you are. It's really creepy how much information you could simply get just by knowing how much light is in the phone at a specific time.
Oh yeah, at the law enforcement conference, man, you would probably have died if you were listening to the kind of stuff that these guys are getting from the process memory.
But before the Hope conference ended, Steve Ranbam used to do a 3-hour conference. He used to do a 3-hour talk every year. He was showing you from a private investigator standpoint how privacy is dead and all the different new technologies. It's so cool. I wish they still had
it was really interesting. It kind of made you want to be an investigator. It just seems so cool. Like a fun Sherlocky thing to do, when
it says
really
make
cool.
it difficult to legislate, I think anything in this sense is difficult to legislate. I mean, we started talking about this stuff in 2014-15. It's almost the end of 2019. Virtually nothing has changed, so I'm not really excited or gung-ho about waiting for some congressperson or senator to issue me a solution that solves my problems.
Well, I think that as well, and this year it's been hard for me to want to go to these things, but looking back, I see now that, geez, as of yesterday, that was a tremendous change. For the first time ever, independent repair, maybe not me, but some guys out there are going to actually be able to give consumers the choice to get this screen or that screen. And this is, it's
1 in 100,000 people are going to choose that.
It's okay. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people. I don't know. You and I have no idea how many dealership people are out there that if they're like, I just want the OEM. We don't know.
Those people exist. They go to the Apple store, the AASPs. I mean, I used to have this in the
drive 3 hours, and that's the whole point, right? That there is a population of people that cannot actually practically go to Apple for repair, and now
a very small number. We
have no idea, but that's not the point, right? I think that yesterday was a tremendous day for the right to repair, where it's sort of like all of this work even if it wasn't on our terms and there's no law, it's still a win, right? It was all of that work, of all that lobbying that ultimately led to yesterday's capitulation, as far as
It
I'm
may not
concerned.
even necessarily be the lobbying. I mean, one of the things I brought up in the video that I'm still uploading because Time Warner sucks is that, yeah, it looks like it has 2 hours remaining on encoding. I was hoping to have that up before this live stream, but Time Warner. It was the fact that even if this is not exactly what we wanted, there's a very good chance that there are people at Apple that work there that actually think it would be a good idea if we got what we wanted. And for all we know, those people kept advocating and advocating and advocating.
Right.
And the only reason we got this stopgap solution of you can only get batteries and screens and nothing else is because, internal company politics, maybe that person was overruled or outvoted by others. But the fact that there are people at Apple that are actually saying it would be a good idea if we throw them a bone, I don't want to discourage them by saying that this is not really helpful. I think I like to see those people continue, and I think the way forward is not even the legal route, because the legal route has proved to be so ridiculously, fundamentally ineffective. If I were Apple, I would not be afraid of it at all. I mean, none of these right to repair bills seem to have made any progress. They always seem to be fairly easy to stomp out, regardless of the country it's in, even in countries that are considerably more liberal than the United States, that are more open to having regulations on large businesses. I think that what's actually driving it is people at the company that are looking at these practices and saying, man, I work here, and this is how they treat the customer and the independent repair places. Why is that? What can I do to change it? It's similar to what's happening in Google. I mean, I'm not going to take sides in any of the ridiculous political infighting at Google, but they actually had to release a company-wide memo where there was something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, just please no political arguments and fighting and insulting each other at work, because at the company there's so much infighting over so many different issues. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily productive, but there is a possibility that stuff like that's happening at Apple, where somebody's saying, hey, I don't like the way you're doing this. Wait, I work here. I program stuff here. I'm a hardware engineer here. I have a say. And maybe that's what's actually happening. And
Yeah,
I think
totally
that's
agree.
the path forward.
It's this stuff about, like, villain, a villain isn't a villain all the time. And I see people just always are like, Apple equal villain, must be bad. Well, Apple is run by moms and dads, and eventually, I got a letter the other day that was from the guy that answers the phone on Apple tech support. And he's like, hey, guess what I just did? I got my battery changed at the independent repair place down the street. Know why? Because it's a heck of a lot faster, and I know it's just as good. And so I think you're absolutely right that internal culture at Apple is going to fall along the lines of the rest of the world, which is
like the culture is what matters, not the law to me, because law is downstream from culture. It doesn't matter how much you advocate for the law if nobody cares about it. And law is always going to be downstream from culture. So I think it's important to change the culture regarding repair, make people find this something that's fun, interesting, exciting, a way to save money, a way to use your brain to figure something out, a good way for somebody who's broke to not be broke, a good way for somebody who used to be a bum to have a job. And if you see it in that light, then it's like, well, why are we being mean to these people? Or why are we not providing them what they want? And there's over 100,000 people at Apple. So what some people don't understand is that when I dislike the way Apple treats the customer, and I dislike some of their policies. But when I say fuck Apple, I'm not saying fuck 100,000 people that work at Apple. I'm saying fuck these specific policies that mistreat the user, that spent $3,000 or $7,000 on something that's now getting the shaft of the middle finger. It's the policies that we don't like. It's not the people. And there's over 100,000 people at Apple. And what I'd like to do and continue to have happen is see more and more of those people. See people like you or Tim Herman or Michael Oberdick, particularly if people like Sunday work at Apple, Michael Oberdick, and hopefully get more and more people to be on our side, and more people to that work there to advocate for these policies to change. Because if more and more people at Apple want to see these types of policies change, and they don't really want to do their jobs effectively until they change, you will actually start to see change happen. It happens from the inside. It's not going to happen from the law pushing on people that don't want to change. It's going to happen from down here pushing for those people to change.
All right, I want to play devil's advocate. Are you ready?
Go for it.
All right, so here's the devil's advocate argument. And I want to know what your real, true thoughts are on this. So this is what I've been hearing a lot among the doomsday, the doomsayers. What, is that a water bottle? Oh, nice. So here's the deal.
Product placement, Jessa. Product placement.
Yeah, Diet Coke all the way. Diet Coke. So here's the deal. I want to know what you think about this argument. The argument is that the real reason that Apple made this independent repair program is all subterfuge. That what they're trying to do is build a network They're trying to indoctrinate this tribe of loyalists that are going to be entrenched in the ecosystem. They're going to be providing OEM parts. And those people are then, as they kind of build out this network, are going to be everywhere. So that we can already see beginning. First, it's the fingerprint sensor. Now it's the fingerprint sensor and the home button. Now it's the fingerprint sensor home button plus ambient light sensor and True Tone. Now it's the battery. All of these tiny little pieces are becoming, the device is checking for authenticity each time it boots up. And that's going to be part of a master plan where they can continue to chip away at features and functions until ultimately the only real option for repair is Apple ecosystem repair. And as long as they have the network to actually provide that repair, which is what they're building with the independent repair program, they've got that network, then they can turn the switch. And because all these parts are serialized overnight, now independent repair is totally dead outside of their ecosystem. That's the doomsday prophecy. What do you think?
Well, one of the things in order for this to kick in, you have to have enough people in this network actually doing business through the system. And one of the things that I think, and one of the things I mentioned in that video is, again, when you have an iPhone 6s screen for $117 and I have to pay to send it back to you, the old one back to you in order to get this, I think that what they're doing is they're offering an option that very few people are going to take. And if you want to get everybody hooked on your system and then flip the switch, then you have to offer the carrot. So, for example, with Uber, they are offering rides at many cases at below cost. So if I use Uber Pool, I can get from here to my apartment 5 miles away in New York City traffic for $8. And if they don't happen to find another person to get in the car, I'm still only paying $8. Now, I know for the 30 or 40 minutes that cabbie is sitting in the car, he's not getting a $4 cut. He's making more than that. So they're willing to lose a little bit in the beginning to get me hooked on Uber with the idea that one day when the driverless car comes, we'll be able to rake in money. And here, I don't see them offering the carrot. I mean, $117 for an iPhone 6s screen. I mean, there's no carrot there. So that's the reason that I don't think that that's the case. Because, okay, let's say you get all these people hooked up as these types of repair providers. I don't think many of the people that actually sign up for this program are really going to be active within that program because their customers are going to provide the feedback. What do your customers tell you when you tell them that the part to a $120 phone is $117? They're going to give you the same look that they give me. I mean, I have people who want to walk out of the store every now and then because I said fixing the screen on their iPhone 6s is $70. That's $70. There are people that are like, the guy next door does it for $60. And they don't care if the screen looks like shit.
So the devil's advocate argument is, well, you're absolutely right. That is what's going to happen. So initially, Apple is going to say, here we go. We're getting our feet wet into the big money of screen replacements. Oh, this is going to make so much money. We're going to be shucking out these screens to all these loyalists that are going to want our Apple OEM screens now available for the first time ever. You can have a genuine screen right down at the corner store. This is amazing. And what's going to happen is exactly what you said. People are going to go down to the corner store and they'll be like, that screen looks pretty much the same as this one. It's half price. I'll take the half price one. This aftermarket one looks totally as good as that one as I see them both together. So then Apple's going to go, hey, where's all the money? Where's all this sweet, sweet money that's supposed to be rolling in as we sell the $117 screen, harvest back the LCD, refurbish it for 9 cents, and then harvest it. It's like we're fishing and we just got all of this bait. They're going to realize, hey, nobody's buying this. And so then they're going to say, we need a way to compel people. And we got to make our screens more attractive. We've got to turn off the aftermarket screens. How can we do that? Oh, I know. Thank God we serialized these screens all along.
I don't see how this plan is actually beneficial to any sort of aftermarket plan. Even if they do make these screens available, if anything, this is actually going to infuriate the consumer because before, consumers didn't have any concept of what the screens cost from the supplier end because there was no news around it. Now, many consumers know what they cost, so they know that the screen to a $120 to $140 phone is $117, which in my opinion is, again, if it was a Samsung, I get it. If it's an AMO LED, I get it. This is none of those things. So the consumers are going to understand from reading the news what these screens actually cost. Then they're going to see that Apple is purposely trying to keep you from being able to use aftermarket screens. So I don't think that that's part of their plan at all. I really don't. I just see this as either A, appeasing people within their company that are saying, we would like to see you stop being dicks to independent repair so that I could have some pride in working here again. Or most likely they're just looking to say, here's an excuse to not have to have legislation in place. Look, we did something. Look, you can get screens even if you're unauthorized. See, you're unauthorized. You just email these people over here. Here's the price list, and you can get parts. So, Mr. Senator, there shouldn't be a right to repair bill. It's one of those things. The conspiracy theory that this is an evil master plan to serialize all the screens, I mean, that's something that they would do anyway. It really doesn't matter. And again, with the whole idea that this is a plan to get everybody on board, how are you getting everybody on board when the pricing is such that nobody's going to agree to it? I mean, everybody who shows up here for an iPhone 10 screen repair that I usually say no to, I say the reason I say no, with the old ones, even if you got an aftermarket, when it's an aftermarket LCD, it looks pretty much the same as the original. I don't want to give you something that's just an LCD when you had an OLED in the phone. It's going to look different and it's going to suck, and I would be pissed off if I had that put in my phone. So I tell them, go to Apple. And they say, I don't even care if you put a knockoff on my phone. I'm not paying over $250 for a screen repair. Screw that. So when those people see the prices, there's not that you have to have that olive branch that you then turn into a knife in order for that to work, to suck people in. And there's no olive branch there with those prices. It's an olive branch symbolically in that we now have the parts available and that they're trying to make a step towards helping us. I appreciate that, but it's not an olive branch in terms of actually getting a bunch of people to adopt the program, because at those prices, it doesn't make any sense. And for those who say you just want to buy cheap parts, again, if I can buy a phone in almost grade A condition from eBay for $130, why would I buy a part to that phone for $117?
Well, I think that they're going to have a problem. So they're going to say, how do we make it enticing? So let's start by saying, all right, we got to make it appear that screen has more value than the aftermarket screen. So now that the aftermarket screens have come along, and man, they look really good. In fact, I think it looks better than the OEM. All right, then we got to start taking stuff away. Let's take away True Tone. Let's take away ambient light sensor. Let's make the proximity sensor only work on Tuesdays. Is
the ambient light sensor built into the phone, like not on a separate Flex anymore? Because again, I open I barely open iPhones anymore now.
I'm the wrong person to ask as well. In fact, I've been like, I don't have any idea. I don't even know what True Tone is. I had to look it up.
You're such a bourgeoisie.
Like the other day because I was.
We don't do any real work anymore, do we? But anyway, so
So I think you could chip away at features, just like, hey, if you've unplugged the front camera and you plug it back in and you don't recalibrate it, like the John Deere stuff, like that guy in Nebraska where he was like, yeah, you unplug the thing to change the fuse, you got to pay the guy $1,000 to come out with a machine and hit, calibrate. So they could do that stuff.
What is True Tone again exactly? Because again,
I looked it up. I know exactly what True Tone is. True Tone is a feature that not very many people even notice or care about, but it's there. It's a feature where if it's kind of like night shift, if it's sort of evening, your tone of your screen turns warm.
So that's the blue light filter thing?
Yeah, it kind of goes from blue, white to,
What makes this different from the blue light filter that's been on Android phones forever? Is it that it automatically detects the temperature of the light in your room to try and figure out whether it should do it or something? Because I've had blue light filter on this forever. I mean, surely there's an application that does the same shit. Even on Android phones, if if it's not in the settings, which it is on most of them, on LG they call it Comfort View. On Samsung phones, they're just blue light filter.
From when I first jailbroke my 4S called.
There's an app that you can install, and it doesn't look as good as a blue light filter on the Samsung phones or Comfort View on the LG phones, but it works. It does the job.
I think the point is that I had a feature, and now I don't.
And those independent repair fuckers took it away, is what you're saying.
Right, exactly. And so I wish I'd paid another $20 and got the OEM screen. So then it's like, oh, True Tone's not enough. What else can we take off? How about let's take off the letter L. So now touch works
what's
fine,
the argument for taking True
L
Tone away? Because is True Tone necessarily even a feature of the screen, or is that a feature of the software? Because my computer has no idea. It doesn't have to know what type of monitor I'm using to use Flux. I could use Flux with any monitor. I could use it with DisplayPort, DVI, VGA, HDMI. It doesn't.
It's definitely a part of the screen because it's the screen people that are making fun of me for not knowing what it is.
Yeah, I mean, make fun of me too. I didn't even know what True Tone was until you even mentioned it.
Right, and that's why I've kind of poo-pooed a lot of the serialization, because it just kind of if you ask me why did Apple make it so that True Tone doesn't carry over when you refurbish the screen, and I would be because they forgot, because it's a meaningless feature that they just forgot was even there when they were I don't think there is a reason other than kind of oversight. Same thing with like, well, why is it that now the Wi-Fi chip in the iPhone?
Someone said night shift is not the same thing as True Tone. Let's read chat because chat is actually useful.
Let's go ask the people that know what they're talking about.
Someone says I love True Tone.
What? What
the
do
light
you love
sensor.
About it?
The light sensor is the.
How much would he pay for it?
The light sensor is the True Tone. Is keyed with the screen. You have to copy the data from the screen to the bootleg screen, says Q's Tech Service. The light sensor is the True Tone, is keyed. Can you possibly give me a slightly better sentence than that?
When you refurbish the screen or you lose it.
It uses the ambient sensor to make it blend in automatically. Oh, I think this is what they're saying is that when it's less light, then it activates or some shit like that. Can you still... True Tone is a relatively recent display feature on iOS that allows your iPhone or iPad's display to adjust its color temperature based on the light of its current surroundings. Okay, so this is what I was getting at. This is not, because that's what I thought originally, and then I went off and I said, is this similar to blue light filter? It's something entirely different. So it's automatically adjusting the color temperature of the screen based on your ambient surroundings, which is actually pretty cool. My Android phone doesn't do that shit. That's a cool feature.
Well, I can sell you an iPhone like today. I'll give you one.
They're the only ones that make that produce a phone that fits in my hand anymore. So they're damn close to it.
Wait, is that day coming? That's what you should do for the 1 million.
Okay, so it adjusts the screen based on the temperature of the light in the room. That's really cool. Now the next question here is going to be: is the ambient light sensor built into the phone? I feel like such a noob asking these questions. It's like, I don't need any of this information to get your data. I don't give a half the time that we're getting the data off of the phone. There's not even a backlight on the screen.
Me neither.
Yeah, like just type in the password. I don't care. After board level, I don't give a shit about the color temperature of the screen when it comes to data recovery.
Yeah, so, I don't know, and that's kind of the point, that these are all it's that the serialization stuff has chipped away at a couple of features, and are we worried that that's going to continue to happen? Let's put the terrible doomsday prophecy away that Apple is never going to actually make it so that the whole phone doesn't work. They're not going to pull another Error 53. That would be ludicrous. But what if they keep chipping away at like somebody says now the vibrator motor doesn't work because everything starts to become serialized. Now the battery says service all the time. So you're starting to kind of get a janky phone unless you're paying those premium Apple prices, which is really all profit for Apple, and that's what they want you to do. They're not going to be cool with it when they.
Is that the case? Because here's the question I would have: if the screen is actively detecting the temperature of the light around you, and then calibrating your screen according to it, couldn't the argument be made that the whole reason this doesn't work with knockoff screens is because if you had a knockoff screen and that was put together improperly, then people would get back a phone, instead of it looking the same as the original, it would be all red or blue or just like look like a broken television? Because if the screen is actually adjusting its own color temperature within the screen rather than within if it's actually adjusting its own color temperature based on what it senses around it, they don't want that feature to be screwed up, because right now if you put a knockoff screen into the phone, it's going to look like 90% the same as the original, and that's good enough for most people. But if you get a knockoff screen put in the phone and it looks like a steaming pile of shit because this thing that messes with the color temperature of the phone is not there, then that's really bad. It would be like trying to apply the exact same color calibration profile to any LCD from any brand of any type. It's if it wouldn't work. Like,
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I probably look like an idiot, but I kind of think that this whole ambient light sensor restriction thing, it may not affect the aftermarket screens. I feel like the people that are complaining about it are the OEM screen refurbishing guys that are taking OEM screen. Like if I take a if I swap a screen from iPhone A to iPhone B, I lose ambient light sensor. I have to reprogram it to match that board. The board is checking for a serialization that's not there. I think that's what the issue is. Hey, this is an OEM screen. This should work. I don't know. I think neither one of us know enough about it to know. All I know is that people get cranky if they're a screen refurbisher about ambient light sensor and True Tone. Maybe those are the same mechanism. You have to have a programmer to transfer it from screen A to screen B.
When it comes to ambient light sensor for Yeah, we're talking, obviously, just to be clear, and this is a retarded question, but we're talking something separate from proximity sensor, right?
Right.
Like, we're not talking you put the phone in your face and it
No.
turns out. Okay, as long as that's the case, I honestly understand what they're talking about with the ambient light sensor. If the ambient light sensor is going to be linked to a feature that allows you to change or dynamically adjust the color in the screen based on the ambient light, it would be really messed up if the software was not changed, but the screen was changed. I think that they just want to put a nix on that because they don't want this feature to work that when you enable it, actually fucks the phone up when you have an aftermarket display. Because if you're doing this type of calibration, you need to be able to say, if this comes in, then put this out to this device. Because if you start adjusting things like, let's say our screen is this much red and that screen is that much red, and we say, okay, put a little bit more red and their screen is this much red, but the knockoff one is that much red, then you're going to wind up with a knockoff screen where everything looks red. Motherflower. Somebody turned on the ultrasonic. Goddamn.
Yeah,
but the issue
doing your job. Yeah,
People
I hear
keep
you,
doing
and
their jobs.
I tend to see those things as well. Like my personal take on a lot of this is, well, like we disagreed about the battery thing. Where I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's saying, like it's a big cover your ass kind of thing. Where they're like, we don't care if we didn't put the battery in there, which there's safety stuff. Did you see the stream Mark and I did, which was hilarious, on reading the Apple battery safety stuff? Like, if it has more than 5 1/4-inch dings in the battery, then you have to throw it away. If you uncover a battery and walk around, that's a total violation. You cannot work on a battery without a huge bucket of 6-8 cups of sand within arm's reach. Like, they're so afraid of batteries that you could read it as if it had the word bomb about to go off in their entire text. That's what it's like their mindset is that a bunch of total kindergarten idiots are going to be messing around with bombs, and that's how they've written all of their battery safety stuff. So it makes sense that they would say, and as part of that, if that device doesn't check the battery and find that it got the right ID, one of these kindergartens be monkeying around, just shut the whole thing down. Oh, we can't shut the whole thing down. Okay, fine, don't shut it down, but just say service.
I think that they're just assuming that the dumbest possible human beings on Earth are going to replace batteries. I've hired some of the dumbest human beings on Earth, and it's just, over 10 years, it's not the danger that people are making it out to be.
Right, I totally agree. I mean,
like whether if you're gonna screw up a battery, you're gonna screw up a knockoff the same as you're gonna screw up the original. Now, if we're talking about combining multiple cells, like you're taking a bunch of 3.7 volt cells to try to make some 52 volt bike battery, and then there we get dangerous. But a single phone cell, if you're gonna destroy the original, you're also going to destroy the knockoff. But again, when it comes back to True Tone, I'm not gonna be really pissed off if that type of extras feature doesn't work on a new screen. Like, I would be pissed off if I can't use the whole screen. I would be pissed off if, like, you limited my aspect ratio and stuff like that. That would just be nonsense. But if we're talking about a feature that's going to detect the light in your surroundings,
would you pay $117 to have True Tone?
I probably, if I were the type of person to buy a $1,000 phone, I would not be cheaping out in the screen replacement. That's just the way it is. Like, if I got a Moto G, of course I'm going to cheap out on it. But again, like, I like this phone. This phone, I paid $300 something for it because it was used, but it's an $850 phone. If I wanted to get the screen fixed, I'd want an original. Now 4 years from now, if I'm still using it, I probably won't because I'm expecting it to die. So a part of that discussion is not necessarily the model of phone that I have or the feature, but rather how old it is and how soon I expect to upgrade it. But just when it comes to screen calibration, if I don't know the screen that's in the phone, I'm not going to fuck with custom calibrations, especially dynamic custom calibrations, because that could become a complete and utter nightmare. I understand Apple taking away something like True Tone in that instance. I understand what you're saying. The screen refurbishers are pissed because they're saying, I am using your fucking screen, assholes. Like, I can see where they're pissed off. And this also comes back to the battery point, where we would be saying, that's the difference between serialization and detection. It detects the screen and see that the screen is, whether it's an original or a knockoff, rather than just saying anything that's not the original is bad. I think that's where the argument comes in. But with True Tone, it seems different than battery because, again, it's going to affect you. I guess lies can be told, like the screen could try to pretend that it's original when it's not. It's an iffy ground. Ultimately, I think if you want all these features, if you're the type of person to go to a repair shop and that repair shop says this screen's $150, this one's $50, which one do you want? And they say, I want the $50 one, and then they bitch that True Tone doesn't work, fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. You saved. I hate when people come back and they're like, I wish I knew X. I wish I knew Y. Now, if you're paying $400 to $600, fine. If you're paying $50 and you know that the alternative was $150, fuck you. Just stop that shit. If you're saving over 100% on the job, you should know that there's a reason for that, and you should fucking expect it. And
what about
granted,
is there a downside to all of us going to the FTC's website where they're doing the open letter, the nix the fix stuff, and they're asking us, tell us what the downsides are to repair, what are the restrictions? They want to hear. We got until September 16th. What if we say, we strongly think that there should be no serialization of parts whatsoever because they impede repair?
That's a tough one.
I know.
Because I honestly wonder where that would revolve. I wonder how that would evolve. I mean, for just one instance, like serialization with board stuff, and here I'm just thinking. I'm thinking out loud, so these are not fully formed thoughts. But just with board repairs, I've had people who very, very obviously brought back a machine under warranty with a board that we had fixed, and that's not the board that I fixed. I know because I know the original thing that I did. I know it probably was something I shouldn't have done to begin with, and I'm like, huh. I thought I put 3 caps on top of each other on here, and then I go, what's up with this? Did you ever open it? No. And then I see the screws are in the wrong place, and it's like, really, motherfucker? And then I'll look up your customer information, I'll Google your email, your phone number, and you have a business on eBay where you're selling boards, and it's like, fuck you. And I understand wanting to, so if you're getting to the point of not being allowed to serialize that, what if we serialize board repairs? Because my old company used to outsource to used to have a serial number on every single board repair. It is, I understand why Apple wants to serialize things. I understand to the extent of, listen, I'm not going to deal with figuring out if this is an original battery or not, because all you fuckers are probably just going to spoof the EDID code of the original anyway. I don't want to come up with a system for it. Serialization is easy. Lazier, but easier when it comes to that aspect. But so I understand them wanting to serialize things. It's tricky because if you legislate away serialization, you're taking away the freedom of the company to do something. But the company is using serialization in and of itself to try to take away the user's freedom to begin with. So it's a different argument, a difficult argument to go over. Now,
it is difficult, yeah, and that's why it's really tough.
I don't think that they're going to just flip a switch overnight and disable all independent screens. And I see where the slippery slope argument comes from. Like, today it's your light sensor, tomorrow it's your True Tone or something. But at the same time, these are also, with the ambient light sensor, are we talking about, just to be clear, because this is important here when we're discussing the potential legislation, are we talking about ambient light sensor doesn't work at all, even if its only purpose is to determine the brightness of my screen when I'm outside or inside? Or is this for True Tone as well?
Set it manually.
Because that's bullshit.
I think ambient light sensor does not work. In fact, I know that's true because it happens.
We really need to know if the ambient light sensor is a part of the screen here. That's the other thing. Is the ambient light sensor built into the screen?
It's not part of the... I don't think so.
Or is it on a special cable?
I also kind of don't really understand.
Can one of us Google this, please? Because we're going to look like idiots.
All right, let's look it up. Let's see if we can... Who can tell us in chat? How come nobody in chat knows the answer to this?
Chat only likes insulting and saying that, like, we're idiots. They don't
we're
actually
definitely idiots.
They're not useful.
That's clear. Let's see. Serialization for trace back to manufacturer. All right, let me see if I can look up. So I'm pretty sure that ambient light sensor is... Let's see. Let me see if I can find anything about this. Ambient light sensor.
What? Shut up, phone.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't work at all. So let's see if I can find any information.
The ambient light sensor is on its own flex cable.
It always has been, but it's pretty clear that there's something up with the screen itself.
It says the ambient light sensor is on its own flex cable.
To transfer a serial number in order for ambient light sensor to work. Maybe it just doesn't work with the new screen. I don't know.
Okay, it says here it's on a separate flex cable. So if it is on a separate flex cable, then I don't see the argument whatsoever when it comes to it not working. I can understand the argument for True Tone not working. We are not going to mess with the calibration of a screen if we don't know what it is, because that feature could potentially make it actually perform worse. And this is not fear-mongering, but if you don't know the calibration of a screen and you're sending information to it, you could really fuck it up. So I completely understand.
But you could make the same argument for ambient light sensor, right? Remember the white screens with proximity sensor and the 4S, where the white
Oh,
screens, they wouldn't work because they let in too much light, but the black screens works. Everybody was like coloring in on the white screens. They had to color in.
I heard the opposite. It would always work in the white. It was the black ones where I had to scrape away the paint to get it to work.
Okay, same thing. So the idea
Memories.
was that if you've got something that's going, you're driving around, this is your map, you're in rush hour, and then all of a sudden the sunbeam hits and your display turns black because the paint on your screen that the light is shining through is a different type of paint. You know, that kind of stuff. Like,
yeah, okay, I see here the ambient light sensor has never been a part of the screen assembly. And the only reason I do ask that question is because I want to do my due diligence and also give Apple any credit here if it is actually a part of the screen. Because if it's a part of the screen, then I can understand them saying we don't know what ambient light sensor this is. I don't know if this is going to if this is going to work properly. What if we're blinding people, or what if the phone's light is never going, what if the ambient light sensor doesn't work and the screen's always at low brightness? I'm curious. I want to see if they have actual reasons to do it rather than just doing it for a shit reason. I really want to, if I'm going to like bitch Apple out, I want to do it for something that actually makes sense. So if the ALS is on a flex cable, then that's pretty lame.
But it has to look through the screen. So it's like a little eyeball. And some of the ones from Staples just have like a little piece of foam there. They don't even have it at all. So it's on the front camera flex, but it has to look through the screen itself. So it's kind of dependent on the screen having uniform quality. But I also thought that it's somehow the aftermarket screens weren't affected. I need to know more about that. I definitely don't know enough about those issues to.
Yeah,
to
like
guess.
I think it's very clear that we have moved away from doing screen repairs to typing
Right.
in passwords. That's what people. It's funny when people walk in. I'll tell them if you throw this in the ocean, I'll get the info off of it. But I don't want to. Don't ask me to put it back together.
Right. Well, it's
I
really
don't-
funny. Somebody sent me from California a iPhone 7 battery replacement that they're like, I just want you to do it. Battery replacement? I don't do battery replacements either. So I gave it to Sam, and Sam, who is 12 years old, did that battery replacement. Did a great job, but it was funny that this guy, rather than go down the street, he mailed his phone to New York so that my 12-year-old son Sam could do his battery replacement.
It's the power of internet fame, Jessa. People love you. Everybody loves you on the internet.
I think there's going to be a whole lot more hate. I'll tell you what, if I was the kind of person that had slaved and banged my head on this whole ambient light sensor issue and whatever the hell True Tone is, and I heard these two people being like, "Brr, brr, 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 we don't really know how it works. We don't even," I would be pissed off. I would be biting my own my fingers off, just maddened that, how is it that you people in this industry don't know what you're talking about? But nevertheless, the question.
As long as you're honest about it.
Oh yeah, I've always
What?
been honest.
Can we use C stuff
Can you put ultrasonic cleaner in basement?
with the thing that we can't talk about?
There's nothing that we can't talk about in the basement. Hi.
The
I think
thing
I'm
we
going to have
can't
to start
talk
using my
about in
office
the
again to do
basement.
work. Are there any things that we missed besides the fact that we don't know anything about this?
Well, I mean,
anything?
what do you want to do about this FTC letter? Are you going to is it important to really voice your opinion to the FTC when it's apparent that the FTC is who Apple listens to? Because the moment the FTC said, hey, you can't void the warranty anymore, even though that Magnuson Moss had been around since 1975 and Apple was like, whatever, the moment the FTC said, yeah, you're not allowed to do that anymore, Apple.
Well, one of the things I'm
that
interested in
same
is how
month
this
was
is
like,
actually
okay,
going.
crap.
I'm really interested in how this is going to affect stuff with the T2 chip in MacBooks. I could give a fuck less about True Tone working on an aftermarket screen,
Right.
whether or not it works in, or even a refurbished one. Because again, if you're saving money by getting that, the screen should work. But like all these little extra ancillary features, I'm just not particularly excited about. But one of the things that would bother me is if I can't replace a keyboard on the newest MacBook or a screen because it's serialized. That's the type of stuff that I would be worried about and care about, because there we're not talking about some ancillary feature not working. We're talking about the entire device not working. So I think I would be on board with it.
Right. So like,
But I just don't
this
trust the
whole-
government to do anything right. That's the thing. And again, they have not done much in this regard as well. All they did is the Magnuson Moss thing, which really does not seem to have. It doesn't seem to have done much, honestly. It doesn't change the experience somebody has when they go to a Genius Bar.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't change-
Absolutely does.
Does it?
It Here's how. It used to be that if I were to take out let's say you had a TriStar problem. You had a TriStar problem that manifests in a way where your phone can charge a battery as long as it's not a stone dead battery. So let's say that you go in with that problem. It's TriStar. You go into a regular shop. They're going to say, rule number 1, let's see if it's just the bad battery. They put in a new battery and hey, look at that, your phone charges. So they're going to take out your OEM battery and they're going to throw it away and they're going to install this aftermarket battery and send you on your way. Now, 3 days later, when your phone gets super dead, my phone doesn't, they're going to come back. Hey, this phone doesn't charge again. And you're going to think, I must have sold you a bad battery. I'm really sorry you had to come back down here. You're going to put another battery in, and now it's going to start charging. Sorry you had to come back down. Go, thanks for stopping by. Here's your fresh battery. Same thing's going to happen because this is actually a TriStar problem. So they come back to you. Now, if you are not a shop that microsolders and you don't recognize that this is the way TriStar fails, you're going to think, I know I didn't sell you 2 bad batteries. I don't know what's going on with your phone. You should go to Apple and just get a new phone. Now, when they go to Apple, and this was a couple years ago, on that Apple Diagnostic sheet of what constitutes out of warranty versus catastrophic damage. In the catastrophic damage, meaning you're not eligible for the out of warranty discount. So you've got to pay full price for the phone. On that catastrophic damage doesn't have the original battery. So just because you went to that independent repair shop and they took your battery out, put in their, whatever battery, now it's going to cost you $600 for a new phone instead of $300. So it cost you $300 just because they changed your battery.
I think part of what they're doing there is one of the things, when they're doing the out of warranty swaps, one of the things I think Apple is trying to do is, make back some of the money of giving you the cheaper phone by taking back the old one and refurbishing it or recycling it. And one of the things that I know somebody who used to do this, they would put a bunch of purposely fake parts into the phone that were not even, it wasn't even Apple motherboard, it was like a fucking piece of plastic. And they would get an out of warranty replacement. They would use those to get out of warranty replacements and then sell them on eBay for above the cost of the out of warranty replacement. And there are scams like that were actually really prominent. That could.
Oh yeah. So, yeah. And there's I remember in the news that they had to shut down the Apple store in China at launch day because people would do things like take a logic board and they would go in they'd make some kind of a problem. They'd go in and say I have a problem, and they would say okay, we'll turn it back in. They would be like, well, I'm not really sure I want to turn it back in. I need to go copy off my data. They would leave. And then they would swap that logic board for a weighted logic board that was just made of random resistors, turn it back in. And the Apple Store policy at the time was not to reopen it and do another whole microscope exam. Because they
exactly whose name we're thinking of right now, don't you?
Yes,
we're thinking of the exact same day.
Scam school. Yeah. How's he doing, by the way?
Seems to be doing lovely.
Yeah, so a lot of those guys. So imagine that times, a million people. Do they have the right to serialize stuff to protect themselves from that kind of fraud? These are all tough questions. So when we write into the FTC and we say things like, we're afraid of serialization of repairs as potentially giving all these manufacturers, because one of the letters that I did get in today when somebody was writing to me about the FTC, I asked everybody that wants to have their voice heard to send me an email. And I read one of them, and he's saying it's about the precedent, that Apple sets a precedent that then everybody else follows. And if they set the precedent that we're going to serialize all the parts to give us the right to potentially just turn everything off whenever we feel like it, that sets a precedent. It's really tough because in order to legislate, it really needs to be all or nothing.
Legislation is a hammer to fix.
If we said no more serialization of anything ever.
Legislation is using a hammer to replace an iPhone screen. So it does have to be very the more precise, the better.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know why I'm opposed to no serialization right now. I know I'm not supposed to be opposed to no serialization, but I'm just thinking of the use cases of how this is going to screw people over in the future.
Right. I totally hear you. I
don't even know what the use cases are yet, honestly.
I put together a phone today, and it was an iPhone 8. And the iPhone 8 screen was aftermarket, and it didn't quite fit in. It had a lift because it was just put together really crappy. And I feel sorry for that customer because I know I was fixing somebody's mashed up a battery connector. I fixed that. I know that they're going to just press that screen down, put it in a case, and give it to the customer. That's really, really shitty for that customer. And I hate that, that there's no.
What did they do to the screen?
In the iPhone 8, the screen will not click in and be flush unless those flexes are perfectly in their track. And on this one, it was kind of just, slapped together in China. And there's a big chip on one of the flexes that has to fit into a socket, basically. And it was just misaligned on that flex. So it's never going to fit. Like sometimes the flexes are too long. You kind of have to bend them a little bit. There's always been kind of crappy parts. And I do feel sorry for customers that are, I don't know, relying on, I hate the idea that you have to rely on any institutionalized repair when I think the solution to all of these is customer service, salesmanship, craftsmanship, and your own personal reputation. And that's all we need. Let the market work everything else out. Stores that have excellent craftsmanship, excellent salesmanship, excellent customer service, you can talk to people, listen to them, take walk-ins, not make old ladies cry when they need a $300 chip-off data recovery.
You're mean.
When they can give them a solution to they can solve their problem. Here, this kid will do it for $50. When you can talk to people and listen and solve their problem, that's what the industry really needs. More than hyper-regulation or hyper-serialization. That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't think hyper-serialization is going to be a fix to the problem. But I'm just kind of concerned as to how not allowing serialization is going to potentially screw over somebody who's not doing something bad when it comes to parts or parts recognition. What other industries could that spill over into where they're not using the Apple's practices in a malicious way to, when they're using serialization? Could this potentially be something that spills over into medical equipment where there is actually a reason to figure out, not let Raj fucking
See,
work on it?
I worked really hard not to use the word Raj.
Did I? Oh,
I said
fuck.
People.
I mean,
yeah. So I don't know. It's really hard. But what I really want to know is when you take a stand called, I don't know, serialization isn't terrible. Do your viewers hate your guts? That's
the thing. I haven't really formed my viewpoint on it yet because I haven't had enough time to sit and think through and think of to whether or not what are the arguments for it, what are the arguments against it, what are the things being serialized right now that are screwing people over. I don't know. As you see, I don't even know enough about this ambient light sensor problem to really even have an informed opinion. Because again, stuff like whether or not the ambient light sensor is a part of the screen or not is going to affect my opinion. Stuff like with True Tone, is it built into the operating system of the screen? How different are the aftermarket screens? How could True Tone malfunction? What's the worst case scenario with the cheapest $12 iPhone screen in there? This is all stuff that I really have to have an answer to before I can answer that question.
Right. Well, I kind of thought of that every single one of these things that I can think of that are kind of serialization disqualification. So rejects because of serialization.
Cool. Somebody says I would unsub in a heartbeat. You should probably unsubscribe now, honestly. If you're only subscribed to people when they agree with you or when their views align perfectly with yours, then honestly you should just get the fuck out, because that means that you're not independently thinking and you're not here for an actual discussion. You're just here for a circle jerk a hive mind of your own beliefs being reinforced, and that's really just lame. As one of the things I've always said is I really don't want fans. I hate the concept of having fans. I like viewers that critically think or that I can engage with, but like people. Yeah. Anybody would unsubscribe if I disagreed with them on one thing, unless it was some thing like whether or not, you're going to shoot up a place or something.
Whether or not it's
obvious.
Okay to have
Something that's extreme. Yeah, it's yes, unless it's extreme, really shouldn't be there. But
that's what's been so disappointing about my channel is when I have a viewpoint that it's like you traditionally across all time, you've had a viewpoint that tends to just, I consider it just kind of shining a light on the truth, and I object to lies and people being misled. But that doesn't mean I hate Apple. I don't hate Apple. I use Apple. I'm using a MacBook right now and an iPhone. This is white. This is Apple product right here.
You disgust me.
I don't hate them. Did that just make that turn off? I don't see it anymore. Like, that's disgusting. End of stream. So I don't hate Apple, and I've been so disappointed that my channel is just like, how much did they pay you to say this? They're just so disgusted with anything that is not vilifying the villain.
I honestly didn't have that experience with the Henrik Husby case. I mean, I think it really has to do with how you present yourself, how you present the information, and how you spell out the points. And when I went over it, and I thought that the Vice journalist did a very shitty job, as Vice often does. I thought that the lack of follow through and coming back to the piece once new facts were brought to light that could have changed how people perceive the case was either lazy or malicious journalism in terms of only shedding light on the facts that you like. And I thought that while Henrik had somebody to be mad at, I think who he had to be mad at was slightly different. Again, I'm not saying don't be mad at Apple at all for the fact that they don't give you any option to buy anything, but also this company did something that they probably shouldn't have been doing. It's a practice that really should be clamped down on, and Apple had a reason to be somewhat pissed off, and I brought it up, and I didn't have anybody get mad at me for the fact that I said Apple had a legit reason to be mad there.
That's because everybody loves Lewis. Nobody
not
gets
really.
mad
Have you ever seen me try to get a date?
Yes, and it worked out great. Like, it was instant. I was like, hey, do you want to go out with Lewis? Yes, I do. So easy.
We don't talk about that one.
Right. Well, that was my only observation in person, and it was so easy. So
you're worse as a wingman than Steve. But yeah, like with
that one, I still don't know what you are and aren't allowed to say. In my experience with all that is that you got to be super careful. But still, I learned from that case that to look more closely than I have traditionally looked at Apple logo. I always figure if there's an Apple logo there, then it's from China and it's from somebody that you trust and it looks original, then it is original. Apparently that's not true.
That's the thing. The people that you're buying it from don't actually have the answers to you in many cases. So the person you're actually purchasing it from may actually believe that it's original because they don't even know how to tell the difference until they dig into it. And most of them don't really have an incentive or a motivation to dig into it because they don't care. If they send you a part and it works, they don't care what's written on it. That's extra work for them. And why bother doing extra work when you don't have to, is the way they see it.
Right. Or just the viewpoint from working with China on the masterclass. Like, what I consider quality and what they consider quality are really, really, really different. Even just done anything. Like, well, look at this quality chair. China, it's a high quality chair. It's an overturned bucket. Here it's a $400 Aeron chair. Like, it's really, really different cultural viewpoints. When I'm trying to buy like audio IC chips from China, brand new, top quality, I will pay more. I want them to be pristine. Oh yes, this is the top quality. And then you get them, and they're like tweezer marks in every single one of them. And it's just the person who's providing that has not been trained to your standards. And that's what's really hard. They think these are great. It says fantastic top quality right on the box. Yeah. Lewis, make a channel for dating advice.
LOL. My God, there'd be 929,000 new incels born immediately.
I really wonder what's going to happen, though, with all of the independent repair program.
I don't even have to wonder. I know exactly how this independent repair program is going to go. Nobody's going to use it. Maybe in nice bumfuck nowhere you're gonna have somebody who's really, really demanding of an original screen, but it's not like no.
It's going to allow people to raise the prices on aftermarket screens.
How?
Because if you're like, this is the Apple original screen, I'm paying, as you can see right here, $117 for this screen, so I'm having to sell it to you for $150. So this is your $150 option. Now, 2 weeks ago, before I was in the IRP program, this was my top quality aftermarket screen. that due to competition around me, I was selling for $69 installed. But now that you can see side by side with the Apple Original, and you see that I'm Apple certified, and you can see that I'm in this independent program, like you can see that I have genuine parts, now I can show you side by side. See how these are the same? So instead of the $150 OEM one, I'm going to offer you this aftermarket one for $99. What a bargain. And you're going to go, oh yeah, I'd love to save $50. That screen looks great. So now I've effectively raised the price from the $69 that I was forced to charge in order to be competitive locally. Now that's a $99 screen because I'm in the IRP. And
Someone said, I think it's done by Apple to make them look good. Now Tim Cook can say they're supporting independent repair. Yeah, there is that. They do get to claim that they're supporting independent repair.
Yeah.
And well, the thing is, you can't even say that they're screwing independent repair, because to do that, they're giving you the same price as they're giving you the AASPs.
Well, I mean, I think that it's good for the consumer. I would like to be able to go into a shop and know, okay, these guys are Apple certified. I don't know that that's stupid. And when are we getting you Apple certified? Let's do it right now.
I don't have time for this. There's
yes,
so much shit. We're not even ultrasonicing things just for the interview so that the noise isn't getting the mic. There's so much shit that we have to do. It's ridiculous.
It's so easy.
I really don't have time for it. I honestly don't even have time for this stream. I need to kind of cut it, but
yeah, I gotta go take Sam water skiing.
Yeah. Well, good talking to you as always.
All right. Well, I'm gonna make you get Apple certified. So.
You're not. Are you gonna stock $117 iPhone 6s screens?
I'm never gonna be allowed in that program. But if I was, I would buy one of each, and I would make a shadow box display with working iPhones, so that people could see what the fuss is. And then I would sell aftermarket screens, and people would love them. And I would probably charge $10 more than I am right now. And that's
my mind is really going away and more away from serialization as this continues. Because I think I stand by what I said in the battery video, that there has to be a better way to figure out if something is authentic or not, rather than serial numbers in a list. I just think that that's a really lazy way to go about it. I cannot unless I personally sign this with a special code, I will never know if this is mine or not. Like, I mean, yeah, I just think that seems really lazy. A lazy way to do it.
It's kind of that, but it's also, I want to know for sure that this was installed, as they think about, like, you know, what prevents all these IRPs from just starting to sell these screens on eBay. And now everything on eBay says 100% OEM. No, this is the
fucking price. Jessa, nobody's going to buy that shit on eBay.
100% OEM, but it's only $29. No.
How am I going to keep this person from selling a $1,000 container of salt on eBay? It's a $1,000 container of salt. Nobody's going to fucking buy it.
The DIY people, they'll totally buy it. Somebody will buy it. And that's, or at least there's that threat that that these parts are going into the wild. How are we going to know which
More people are going to buy the Apple
installed?
coffee table book than this piece of shit, Jessa.
How are they going to know if this was installed by an Apple certified person with a little battery roller and all their cute little tools, that they didn't cause long screw damage? You know, how are they going to know?
I have to actually start fixing things because we have a complete overflow. Sorry, Jessa.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll talk.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk today. Everybody, please do check out Jessa Jones's channel, iPad Rehab. She says a lot of the same stuff I does, but gets a lot more hate for it because I'm better looking. But we're going to end the stream over here. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.
Bye.